The new Z50 Mark II has amazing autofocus, but to get the most out of it, use subject tracking. That's what we're going to be looking at in this video. So subject tracking on the Nikon Z50, that's what we're going to be looking at in this video. I'm going to show you how I've set mine up and how I can quickly activate that to capture those shots when I'm out photographing wildlife, small birds in dense forests, woodlands, all that kind of stuff. A really great way to use the autofocus system on this camera. So we're going to go through how I've set up, which buttons I've set up, and I'm going to show you some video how I've actually used it when I've been out and about. And I think you'll find that this is a really great way to use the autofocus system on the Z50 to make the most of it to capture those shots. So I've always found notoriously difficult photographing small birds, especially in dense woodland. It is difficult, and there's branches in the way. The autofocus system can get confused. It's going to focus on the branches in front, it's going to focus on the branches behind. And I have to say, the bird AF autofocus on the Z50 Mark II is absolutely fantastic, as it is in the Z8. It really does work really well, but even that can get confused in dense woodland. It can be very difficult. So I've come up with a way to set the camera up that I find comfortable using for myself, and that helps me capture those shots, especially in all of that dense leaves and twigs and woodland when they're all up in the trees. So we're going to go through that. I'm going to show you how I've set it up, and it's basically using the two function buttons. That's the key. You've got to make the most of these function buttons. Now, subject tracking on the Z50 Mark II can only be used when you're either in AFA or AF continuous mode. You can't use it in AF single, and obviously you're not going to be using it in manual focus mode. Now, subject tracking can actually be recalled in any of the AF area modes also. So whichever one you're in, whether you're in full area AF or you've just picked a certain small type of box, you can recall the subject tracking instantly using any of those AF area modes, either in AFC or in AF-AF. So you've got to bear that in mind. I always leave the bird detection on. Doesn't matter which, if I'm shooting birds, obviously, it doesn't matter which area mode I'm in. I will always leave the subject detection on birds for shooting birds and wildlife. I'd never have it on the auto setting, because I don't want the camera looking for different things. I want it specifically looking just for the birds, so it kind of grabs focus on the bird's eye. Now, the key for me really is to set up these two function buttons, FN1 and FN2, and specifically FN2 for the subject tracking, to recall that subject tracking. Because I have the back button focus set up on the Z50, that's the way I like to shoot. So I can focus using the back button, and then I can obviously just capture the shot by pressing the actual shutter button. But having the FN2 button down here assigned to the subject tracking and being able to press the back button focus there, it's just a really comfortable, ergonomically comfortable to use, especially when you're using a big lens. It's very easy to call it up and grab that focus instantly and then press the button to capture the image. Such an easy way to do it. Now, to set up the subject tracking, you have to go into pencil icon on the camera. If you go down to F, controls, go into controls, you want to F2, custom control shooting. So you go into that section. Once you're in there, you can see the FN1 and FN2 displayed. Now, if you go into FN2, scroll down to the AF area mode, click in that menu, and then scroll down to 3D tracking. That then has assigned the FN2 button to 3D tracking. Now, the other little trick that I do is I actually assign the FN1 button to zoom. So again, exactly the same process. Go into FN2, scroll down until you find zoom, pick the zoom range you want. I've got it on 100% zoom. Select that, and then you've got the bottom button, FN2, selected to subject tracking, and you also have the FN1 button selected to zoom. Now, you may be asking, why have I got the FN1 button selected to zoom? Well, I'll come to that a little bit in this video. But going back to the button, the subject tracking button, now what that allows you to do is, no matter what area mode you are in, you can quickly press that button and call up subject tracking and lock on to your subject instantly. It's a really great way to shooting when you're in amongst thick, dense woodland, and it allows you to kind of pinpoint where that bird is. And if there's nothing in way, it's going to grab focus straight away, and you can literally follow that bird around where you need to. Now, the only one downside with subject tracking is that the the box itself is quite big. It's a lot smaller than it was on the first iteration of the Z50, but it's still quite big, and it still can at times get a little confused and jump to a branch or jump behind. So the reason I've set up FN1 on zoom is because I will quickly put the box over where I'm trying to focus. I'll press zoom and I can quickly grab manual focus on the bird if there's too much in front of me distracting the autofocus on the camera. And it really is a great way to capture those shots very quickly. It's a very intuitive way to work, and it's one that I've found that works the best for me. It's one I've used for quite a while now, and one I think that you guys will get the most out of when shooting birds. Now, you don't just have to use it for shooting birds amongst thick, dense bushes. That whole process can be used for shooting anything. But I just find the subject tracking is just such a great way, and one of my favourite ways to grab focus on anything I'm shooting if I'm in a little difficult situation where there's a lot of things distracting the autofocus on the camera. The cameras are great, the autofocus system is great these days, but there's still times where it can still get distracted. So trying to limit all those distractions as much as possible, even by just selecting the small area AF mode and just having that little box, so it's only going to try and focus around that little box. You're making the most out of the EF on this camera, and it works a treat. It really does. You're going to get some amazing shots. So there you go. You can see how easy it is to use the subject tracking and the zoom function by setting them two buttons, and how quickly you can grab those shots. So I just wanted to put that together because I found that's the best way to use the EF on this camera, especially when you're birding. It's such a great way, such a relaxing way to use, and one of the best ways I've found using the EF system on the Nikon Z50ii. So I hope you found this video interesting. I hope you've gotten something out of it. I will be back with more videos on the Z50 Mark II, so if you want to see those, consider following along. So there you go. With that being said, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. See you then.